welcome to the Staycation Summer Series, an exploration of New Brunswick. I'm Jenna Morton.
And I'm Tosh, and each week this summer we're inviting a new guest to the show that's going to share their love of this province.
And we've picked some of the best local ambassadors from around the province to tell you what to see, what to do, where to stay, where to eat, and just what there is to love about their community.
So let's get started, shall we? We're going to kick off this series, being joined today by the wonderful Alaina Lockhart. She served as MP for Fundy Royal for several years, the first and only woman so far to do that. Congratulations, by the way. And on top of that, you were appointed as the Parliamentary Secretary to Small Business and Tourism. She is an entrepreneur, an outspoken advocate, and a fantastic first guest for the Pickle Planet Summer Staycation Series. Welcome.
Oh, well, thank you. What a warm welcome.
So we want to start things off by talking about where you call home. What makes you so proud of the Fundy region that you reside in?
You know, I live and grew up in Sussex, and for me, all of our adventures, my mother was a teacher. So through the summers, we spent our whole time exploring the local area, really. I don't remember ever going too far, maybe Grand Manan, but we certainly filled our time in the area. And because of that, I think I just have that deep-seated affection for the area.
When you start to tell people about where you're from, especially when they're not from the province or not from the area, what are those first things that stand out to you that you need to share with people?
You know, one of the things that has struck me in my adult life is the number of people who have such fond memories of our province and of this Fundy area, really. Every time that I introduce myself, or more often than not, when I introduce myself, someone will say, oh, you know, I visited there with my parents, or, you know, I took the kids back there last year, or whatever. So it's funny because we don't feel like we're a tourism mecca. But so many people have visited here, and I think we underestimate the allure of, you know, somewhat, I like to call it the exotism. You know, we're a bit of an exotic locale. It's not somewhere that you stumble upon. People make this journey when they come to the East Coast, you know, kind of the northeastern corner of North America, really. And so people don't come here by accident. And the reason they come here is because of the charm of the communities that we live in, and of course, the beautiful backdrop. You know, I always say Mother Nature has set the table, and all of us are invited to dinner. So it's, I think it's always an adventure here.
You make me think of, I had, growing up in Ontario, there isn't an awful lot that you're taught about New Brunswick. And then when I moved out here, the first thing my mom and my grandparents said to me was, oh yeah, we drove to New Brunswick one time and our car broke down on the Magnetic Hill. And they spent a week in Moncton because of it, like when my mom and my aunts and uncles were kids. But it's so funny how that had never come up before, my entire life, talking about things they did when they were kids. Nobody ever mentioned that they came to New Brunswick, maybe because they got stuck there. But anyway.
I'm sure that you find too that as you talk to people, and you know, when you do have that sense of being an explorer in our own province, how many people haven't visited some of the things that we see as iconic, like Hopewell Rocks? You know, my husband and I went there 6 or 7 years ago, and I was shocked when he said it was the first time he'd been there. I'm like, what? How did you grow up here and not ever go to the Hopewell Rocks? So, you know, there's a lot of things that we have to explore in our own backyard.
What are some of those must-see places that you would put on the list that people maybe have missed out on their whole life because they keep thinking, oh, I'll get there someday. This summer is that day.
That's right. We're all here, so let's enjoy it. Well, as I said, I live in Sussex. And this isn't my term, somebody else has coined it along the way, and I don't think it's official yet, but I consider myself one of the tips of the triangle of awesomeness, you know? So from Sussex, you know, you start with this experience in the rolling hills and the valleys of the Kennebecasis River. And, you know, here we have really, Sussex has staged itself as a wonderful place for festivals normally. But as a result, we've got amazing restaurants, we've got beautiful scenery, we've got great hiking trails. One of the things that has really become popular in the last few years has been mountain biking and the amount of gravel roads that we have. So for those gravel grinders out there, we're a perfect location for that. And most recently, really excited to hear that Pulley Mountain is going to be doing some mountain biking trails as well. So, you know, our summer experience here has expanded, and I know that the whole town is excited to get back to amazing events like the International Balloon Fiesta. But for this summer, I think we should enjoy all of the amazing trails and opportunities to get out there. If you haven't been to the Bluff in Sussex, it's a great walking trail that you have a beautiful view of Waterford and Pulley Mountain and that whole area. So I would definitely do that. Stay for lunch, maybe have a beer in town. I have to give a little plug for Sussex Ale Works. My husband knows that. So. I would be remiss if I didn't mention.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead.
And both Tosh and I do enjoy stopping for a beverage when we adventure. So
there's nothing like a bike ride or a hike and then a nice cold beer to finish it off. You know, and then from Sussex, really, you have a wonderful opportunity now with the new connector roads that are open to the Fundy Trail Parkway. That's been exciting for me this summer because obviously the Fundy Trail Parkway has been on my radar for a while, something that I was a real champion of when I was in government, and it's been wonderful to see it come to fruition. So we now have the link, and as of this morning, I can tell you it's chip sealed the whole way. You can go from Sussex to the east gate of the Fundy Trail Parkway, follow that through now to St. Martin's, and do a full loop back to wherever you'd like. You can end up back in Sussex, you can end up in Hampton, Quispamsis, that whole area. So it's a really nice loop. It is, you know, it's a significant drive, so you should allot a whole day probably. It's, I think, 3.5 hours if you don't stop anywhere, but even after being through there 1,000 times, I can't resist stopping to enjoy the scenery along the parkway. And then obviously St. Martin's with the caves that are in St. Martin's, as well as some great culinary options there too. And, you know, we always enjoy the charm of these communities as well. You know, they have a rich history and a culture. They also have, along the Fundy Coast, they have a fishing industry as well, which is wonderful that we have that close access to the wharves and those working areas as well. So so that's one route. Alternatively, you can leave Sussex and go to Elma and work your way along through Albert County. First stop obviously being Fundy National Park, and then through the beautiful community of Elma, and then up along the coast all the way to Moncton. So, you know, that's why I call it the Triangle of Awesomeness, because you can go anywhere, and next year we'll be able to have that connector road through the Fundy Trail Parkway, so you can go either way. So it'll be really great.
I'm so excited for that. Like we jumped at the Fundy Trail Parkway the second it opened this summer because of the new connector road. Like it just seemed so great to be able to go do that, and now to know that it's chip sealed, even better. Yeah.
I'm gonna put the warning out there though to other families who are listening who maybe have not done the trail yet. Make sure you do your research. Check their website and their social media to see what the hours are, because that got that caught me up. I hadn't I understood that there was going to be hours for the gate. I didn't understand that the gates actually closed down. This is not a regular roadway. I'm used to the Cabot Trail, which the Fundy Trail Parkway is, you know, comparable to when people talk about it. And for me, I grew up being able to, you know, you pay at the gate and you can drive through. It doesn't close. So just a warning out there to make sure you get the full impact, because it is absolutely stunning and an incredible piece that we have now in this province.
I understand that their summer hours are starting, I think, on Friday, so they'll be open till 8 o'clock in the evening. So that will open up the day for a lot of people too.
Awesome. I think one of probably New Brunswick's best hidden secrets is Long Beach along the Fundy Trail Parkway. It is spectacular. Is there anything else that you think people should know about New Brunswick, like a hidden story or another hidden treasure of a place in the Fundy region? Something people may not know?
Sure. Just a couple of weeks ago, actually, I took, it was my birthday, so we took a drive for my birthday, and I suggested that we go to Crooked Creek and the Crooked Creek lookout in Riverside, Albert. And that was a really great treat as well. And while I was there, it's springtime, so everything's that vibrant green, but I could just imagine, I can't wait to go back in the fall and see those fall colors there. So that one's a little hidden gem that is great for hiking adventure. And, I think the other thing too, and recently I've been talking about this, is the opportunity we have for ecotourism and what that means. And we have this beautiful, beautiful natural environment around us, and also these great communities. And if we can figure out a way to go forward with tourism so that we can support those communities, it's great. So anytime you're visiting any of these, pop into the communities, talk to the local business owners, and listen to their stories, because they're quite rich.
On that point, I think it's a good chance to expand this view a little bit. Most of our staycation series is about New Brunswick specifically, but you have that interesting outlook and view on things, having spent time at a federal level dealing with tourism. What opportunities do you see during this staycation summer that everyone across the country is experiencing?
That's right. One of the things, actually the main work that I did was working on the National Tourism Strategy. And that strategy really looked at what is the potential of tourism in Canada? I mean, right now it's highly underestimated. 1 in 10 jobs in Canada are tied to tourism, whether it's through service or accommodations or what have you. But the opportunity lies in what is termed in the tourism world as secondary markets, So your first stop might be Toronto, Vancouver, Banff, but how do we get visitors to go out into areas like Atlantic Canada, and what does that mean? And it's got huge positive impacts, or could have huge positive impacts in our rural areas. So this summer, I think we have an opportunity to become ambassadors, to really get out there and understand and connect with our communities again, and realize why those places that are so special have come to be. What is the history behind the Fundy Trail Parkway, for example? I've spent time in St. Martin's and, talk about the shipbuilding history there and the fact that it was a community of 3,500 people at one point. So, as we learn the different stories about our community, I think we can all become better ambassadors. And the other thing that I think is really important is pride in place. And regardless of where you live, if you're proud of where you live, it's much easier to welcome other people and to enjoy your day, quite frankly.
That's something that Jenna and I talk about all the time on the podcast, is pride of place. It's such a huge statement for us, both of us not being from New Brunswick originally, but we're both trying to raise our children as proud New Brunswickers. So I know we've both made the goal this summer to make sure that our kids are learning as much about our history and our past as possible. And something I'm kind of wondering, because you mentioned the history of the Fundy Trail Parkway, can you give a short, how did it start? Where did it come from?
Sure. Well, we have Mitch Franklin, who had the vision. I think he had the vision for a long time, but about 25 years ago or so, he introduced Frank McKenna to that coastline, this undisturbed Fundy coastline, and said, you know what, we can make something really spectacular here that all New Brunswickers can be proud of, and that would attract visitors from around the world. Premier McKenna at that time bought into that and said, you know what, you're right. This would be a great driver for the area, and let's do it. So at that point, that's when funding started, and they started providing funding for a few kilometers at a time. And over the last 25 years, it came to be. So just a few years ago, the actual parkway itself, the roadway, was completed, and that's really where the focus was for most of that 25 years, was getting that roadway done, breaking through that area. From there, then now the parkway is in a great position to start talking about what to experience while you're there. And so you'll see now that they're focusing on some of those experiences like hiking and biking and getting people out of the car. And, the lookout spots are wonderful, but there's so much more to enjoy in the area. And just a few years ago, we secured the funding to finish those connector roads. So the parkway you'd come to the east gate, and that was the end. You have to turn around and go back. So the vision really is to be able to have it connect to the other communities, which is really exciting, because what it's doing is providing a whole new experience for New Brunswickers and for visitors, and connecting communities that didn't have a natural connection before. I talk about this triangle of awesomeness, but now we have the opportunity really to come to New Brunswick through St. Stephen, for instance, come along the coast all the way to what we consider the urban experience on the Bay of Fundy in New Brunswick and St. John, and then continue through and spend some time in St. Martin's. Then you have an opportunity to, whether you come through to Sussex or whether you go through to Alma, to continue along the coast, really all the way to the border of Nova Scotia. So it's really changing the face of southern New Brunswick and how people experience New Brunswick.
I'm obsessed with it. I think it's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So I was wondering, when someone comes to visit you, where is the first place you're going to take them? Like, where do you show off first?
If somebody's coming to visit me in Sussex, first I probably spend some time in the community. Some of the things that are day to day for us, whether it be the farmers market or something like our local restaurants and patios and that sort of thing. And then usually a drive out through towards Poley Mountain. That area is just stunning. The bluff is there. So go for a hike. It's not. It's a hike, but it's not too intimidating that you can't take most people on that. Take your time and enjoy that. It's quite spectacular. And then from there, that can wrap up a day, really. The other thing that we have here in this area is Adolf Butcher Shop and Grimmindel's restaurant, so the old Bavarian restaurant. So if you go in that direction, you can have a wonderful, authentic German meal, which is in a beautiful locale as well. And then head out to Cornhill, for example, and the Cornhill Nursery. And that is not only a tree nursery, but they also have a cafe there, and Stonefire Pizza, and rolling hills all through that area. So I don't know, pick a direction, go in any direction. It's plenty which way you go.
The restaurant is just absolutely stunning. That is one of the first places that I think I actually went after I came to New Brunswick, because it's been like a family tradition of my husband's family, because they were actually living in Germany before they moved back to New Brunswick. So he came back as a child, and so his parents, that became their place to go for every special occasion, was out to the Gustav's, to Garamingles, and it's like walking into another country. It really is. It's just spectacular.
It really is. It's a beautiful backdrop. The restaurant itself is built in that Bavarian tradition. But the other thing that's really interesting about there is it truly is a farm to table experience as well. The restaurant is actually on the farm, and the family raises all of the meat that's served there. They grow vegetables. They bake bread. They do the whole thing. So it's a really authentic experience and a family experience too. If you've ever been out there and sat with the family as you eat, and they sometimes will join you, it's just wonderful.
I see so many people on social media talking about that restaurant too, and I never knew where it was. So right on.
It is definitely a hidden gem. You think you're going into the woods, and then all of a sudden there it is. And it's just, it's so fun.
What I think is really neat is that all of these places are worth the drive, and that adventure to get there is as beautiful and wonderful as the actual destination. So, I would encourage all New Brunswickers, don't just hit the road and focus on the destination. Enjoy the whole ride, because we live in a beautiful, beautiful place. And the opportunities are right there, and don't be afraid to stop. One of the things that I always love to do, we have these roadside vegetable stands and things that are totally on the honor system. You take your carrots and drop in a few bucks and off you go. And that's something really special that you don't see in all parts of the world. And the fact that it works, and that we still live in a place where people feel comfortable doing that, is pretty special in itself.
I wonder, what do you think makes you the proudest to be a New Brunswicker? I know you've listed a bunch of things today, but if there was one thing you had to choose, what makes you the proudest?
You know what? I am super proud of our resiliency. It has not been an easy ride for New Brunswick. We wanted to start a confederation and come forward from there. But New Brunswickers always bounce back. We're innovative. We come together when there's a crisis or an opportunity and really make the best of things. And because we're so diverse and because we have, learned to be self-sufficient in many ways, we're nimble as well. So, through COVID-19, for example, there's a reason why, other than luck and good management. But the other thing is that we care about each other. I care about my neighbor, but I also care about my neighbor's grandmother. And I think that charm and that connection between people is really something we should all be proud of.
Amazing. So before we let you go today too, can you tell people where they can follow you? Because you are talking a lot right now about ecotourism and how important that is. And I think that a lot of people need to get some more information about it.
Sure. I'm quite active on Facebook. It's at Alaina for Community. Spend a lot of time talking about community. And also on LinkedIn there as well. I'm also doing some work with a friend of mine, Lisa Radlick, and she and I are going to be launching a new podcast, which is called Happy to Be Here. So I think it'll dovetail quite nicely into the work that you folks are doing. We will be looking at community-led innovation and the doers on the ground, as well as some academics to talk about how do we move our communities forward. So that's the work that I have. Happy to have people follow along, and thank you for the opportunity to join you today.
We loved having you here. I'm so excited to have a chance to even get to talk to you and to kick things off with one of my favorite regions, the Fundy Region. There's so much that I even just learned today, and I live in this part of the province. So I'm excited to see what else we can put together with this series of 8 podcasts this summer.
Well, listen, I just say jump on your bike, put on your hiking boots, jump in your car, whatever you need to do, and just get out there.
Yeah. Perfect.